right. So far, things are going the way I hoped for, and sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. Learning to pivot. But today we're going to have the conversation that I've been needing to for some time, and a lot of people have been waiting on. And that is helping a lot of parents with information that we didn't know we didn't know. The purpose of this channel is to provide information that I wish that I had received. Um, we've been on this journey for a while. If you know, you know. If you know me for some time and are aware and have met my family, you understand the things that we are have dealt with and are dealing with. We're learning every day something new, and my goal is to provide and share useful information to those who also don't know they don't know, or they're looking for an answer and no one has given them one that's satisfactory or will solve the problems that they are struggling with. And today, this conversation that we're having is what are our purposes and goals when it comes to parenting with our kids? We learn what we learn daily. We are every day learning what we feel our children would benefit from, but we don't know how to give it to them. It's like being told that you need to cook a family dinner, but you ain't learned to cook yet, and everybody coming. So, with this situation, when it comes to day to day life and helping them manage their mental health and you learning to manage yours, it is not always easy. But helping them manage, maintain, and supporting their mental health and their mental well being is our goal. If you have anyone that you're caring for, I'm sorry, whether there be a child or an adult, a family member, family friend that you have had the privilege of now you are responsible for making sure that they're okay. I have friends who recently have had the privilege of having children added to their family that were distant relatives, but their children were adults and they weren't struggling with this with their kids. And now they have the experience of trying to get these children from a very young age to being productive humans. And by productive, I mean them being happy, them being well, mentally and emotionally, and doing all the things that they could possibly learn to do one day. It will look different from person to person. It will. Some will have extremely complex jobs and really large lives, and others will do the best that they can do with what gifts that they have. Every day learning what their superpowers are and what their gifts are. Because we have to love the new language of understanding they are not broken, they are just differently able. So learning how to help them manage that is important. I also understanding that we're doing the very best that we can and to give ourselves grace because there are going to be days that we are crushing it and it is going amazing. And there are going to be days when you hiding in the backseat of your car with the doors locked, eating a bag of chips because you're trying to hold it in a roll. But learning what your priorities are is important. Learning what your number one priority is, and what does that mean? It means that if their needs can't be met where they are required to go, we should no longer require that they go there. If it's family or friends that do not understand or will not attempt to understand that life has changed and that your priority will be different because your circumstances are different. Lots of times people feel that they can help you by giving you advice or getting involved without understanding what is actually needed. Because honestly, sometimes people, we have an innate nature of being somewhat selfish. So we will try to fix it by intervening in ways that are not requested, which sometimes cause more damage than the help that we think that we're giving. And does that mean that we are expecting them to not go around anyone? No. Does it mean that they're cutting off school? No. Does it mean that if Bible meeting is difficult for them, that they don't have to, that you want to cut that off? No. But you have to make sure that there are accommodations that are necessary for them so that they can be okay, can be met. So the best way to do that is learning what they need, how they can be met, and communicating that with those around them. If it is a space in which it won't allow you to make sure that they're okay in the way that they are, then we have to be the ones to make the necessary adjustments. Sometimes, unfortunately, we may become more distant from those that at one point we were close to. Does that mean we don't love them? Absolutely not. But because our number one priorities are the ones that we are responsible for, we have to make sure that foremost, they're okay and that you're okay. And the reason I say you're okay is because if they're not, you won't be. You will be drowning emotionally. And sometimes we will be made to feel by others, and sometimes by our own feelings of frustration and overwhelm. We begin to question our ability to do the job that we have been privileged to receive. We will feel somewhat lost in who we once were. So it's important to make sure that we seek out our own health also, and seeking someone who can be of support to your family and their new needs. But it's also important that we make sure that the environment that we put ourselves and our family in is a healthy one. One of the things that we've been looking into, this one particular book that I found so helpful, it's actually a workbook. Um, Lots of libraries have them, not all of them, but you may be able to definitely get a digital copy of this book on at your local library online if you have logged into your library with your library card. You can definitely do this. This book is by Michelle Garnett, Tony Atwood, Louise Ford, Stephanie Runham, and Julia Cook, and it is a CBT-based Fun with Feelings parent manual. And it's 10 steps to reducing your child's anxiety on the autism spectrum. When I tell you, I highly, 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 highly recommend this book. When I was going through it, oh my gosh, this book makes all the difference in making sure that you start to have less anxiety issues for your children and for your household, because it gives you the tools you need to make sure that you start to build a structure arrangement to help them cope with their anxiety, and for you as a parent to learn what's triggering their anxiety and the tools you need to help your child, your household, their teachers. Also, it's really crucial, and a lot of people don't think about it, that they get someone, a clinical psychologist that has the skills of dealing with autism. It's important that you find someone who has those tools. If anyone that has a vehicle that's a special vehicle, we had a really bad experience many years ago. We had a Volvo, love Volvo, still do. But if you get that kind of car, you need a mechanic that knows how to repair it, not just any mechanic. Now, for us, we had a problem with the car. The mechanic that came over, diagnosed it, did not charge us because I think he wanted three something to repair it. Now, mind you, this was, I want to say, it was at least 21 years ago. Yeah, 21 years ago, right? Well, I thought we could go to another mechanic because I felt like he was tripping. So, no problem. Found another mechanic. What happened? It cost us so much more because this particular mechanic charged us. We paid. They couldn't fix it. Then they offered. They didn't give us our money back. They recommended that we go to another mechanic. We find somebody else, right? They had told us that they were certified. What they didn't say is we're not certified to fix this kind of vehicle. This is a specialty vehicle, right? It's a foreign car. It's a German-made car. So I was so upset. Got the car towed to another mechanic. This was one that fixed computers. He assured us he could fix it. He dropped our tank 3 times. 4 if you count the one in the shop. My husband ended up stranded on the highway. A hot mess. At this point, we had paid so much money. You know how much we ended up paying for that repair? More than $1,000. Because we didn't want to pay what we thought was a lot initially to the person that repaired Lavos. We got a recommendation from a friend that's who she had the same kind of car as us. It wasn't the same year, but it was the same make, right? And model. Didn't have another problem after that. From then on, we learned that in order to get this car and keep it running well, we had to deal with someone who only dealt with those kinds of cars. It's important when you're getting help for your kids who are on the spectrum, you get help from individuals who are qualified and trained to deal with people who are on the spectrum. This is their primary expertise, not someone who's dabbled in it. Because if you start complaining because my child walking around the room or asking them questions repeatedly and getting agitated, it is quite clear that you do not have the necessary training to help them. So I always advise parents to get the help that they need because it's important. Also, if you're having behavioral problems at school, it's important that we make sure that we help them get the help that they need when they're having behavioral problems at school, because most times, unless that teacher has a PhD in special education or their masters, they're helping the children to learn, but they're not equipped to deal with the behavioral issues and the various forms of it that present itself, particularly when there is a classroom that many times has more than 5 or 6 students in it, sometimes upwards of 12 or almost 20, which is too many, if you ask me, in a classroom that has children that aren't on the spectrum. But most cases, more than half of those children are on the spectrum, and the teachers are required to deal with that. Well, one of the things that you can do is have the teachers write down their behavioral plan and send it to you in an email form. And then once you do that, you can have that forwarded to their OT. There are generally a lot of kids who receive occupational therapy and speech therapy. It's done on a school level. But if you're fortunate enough to understand the way insurance works and that you can, if you have an IEP and you meet the income requirements, you can have, if you already have insurance that you were paying for before your child got diagnosed, and you all have insurance through one of your jobs, through your job, You can also take that IEP and use it to get state funded assistance with insurance and use it to get insurance with the school. I mean, get therapy with the school and therapy outside the school too. So when my daughter was first diagnosed, we had Blue Cross Blue Shield and we had state insurance. So because of that, we were able to get privatized insurance and because we had privatized insurance, we were able to get her therapy at school and outside of school, which seemed like a lot to other people. But at this point, most people don't know that my daughter was almost nonverbal or limited verbal, I'll say, until she was nearly 7. So I don't know that had we not done what was necessary, where she is now, she would she wouldn't have progressed to the point that she is. I really, truly believe that we were blessed to have people let us know things that they shouldn't have known. They shouldn't have told us. My grandma always says that the truth is often told by people who ought not to tell it. And it's true. One of our therapists told us, and then because she told us, she left and started working somewhere else, which was funny because she ended up working with her in the school system later anyway. Because oftentimes when they work within the school system, they move them around a lot, because you're working with the board, and so the board, you know, places you wherever they see that it's needed. And sometimes your paths will cross again. But because she told me my daughter's diagnosis, even though she wasn't um, supposed to legally, because she wasn't diagnosed, she was not a diagnostician. She was not someone who was legally qualified to diagnose. But because she knew, and I kept asking, she went on and gave it to me. But because of that, she could no longer work with us, but she didn't tell us that. But she was getting ready to change locations anyway. And so it kind of worked out. But I was really blessed to receive that information. But once the school is aware, or the therapist is aware of what's going on, because you can forward that information that the teacher has observed behaviorally. Now you have a chain of what's happening in an observation that can be forwarded to the OT. And now you all can start working on a plan. And it also can be forwarded to the therapist that they may be receiving, the therapist that they are seeing outside of school. Um, it's really important also that the parents know what to request. The biggest problem that we encounter, and I found that so many parents encounter, is not knowing what to say to the therapist to make sure that your children continue to get the necessary therapy once what's by state requirements for insurance, state and private. The minimum is all they have to give you, and they're not required or really allowed to just tell you what it is that child is supposed to have. So you kind of have to go through the back door. And I'm a backdoor fan because I want to know the information you can't tell me. But the secret is, it's like knowing a secret knock. You have to know how to ask what you need to ask. And not knowing that has caused a lot of parents, including myself, to lose the benefits of the insurance that they needed for their children to continue to get, not the insurance, the therapy that they needed, because they didn't know what to ask. And I remember being asked, what else did I see that my daughter needed? I didn't know what to say because I didn't know what they should be doing. And here's what I will recommend for helping your child to create goals. Take a pen and paper Ask what they saw your children doing, what they saw progress wise. And they will always generally have that conversation with you when it's private insurance. Um, because you're capable of being there when it's school, you're at work generally, or the way it's set up, sometimes it's a group, so you're not really allowed to be there. But what you can do is ask them, can we create a link where it's an open Zoom so I can see my child's therapy and I can tell you what I feel like we're missing. Also, you can also ask to meet with the school's OT. You can set up a meeting with them. A lot of parents don't know that. It's important that you also ask the therapist if this was your child, for what milestones you know that children should be at their age. If they were typical, what would they need to be working on? Take a pen or pencil and some paper. Make notes of what they say. What is my child lacking in? What could we do to support that and work on those different skills? Then make a note, make sure you have their email address. Now, make a request for those things that they told you that you, if this was their child, or from their experience and their training, that this child would need these things to thrive, these particular skills. Tell them what other behavioral issues you're having. Write those notes down for what they're telling you regarding these particular issues. Now, make this a request to them in an email. Once you do this, they can submit this to the doctor. So a prescription can be written for an extension in the services that your child is receiving. And this can be sent to the insurance company as well. There's justification for this so that you don't lose the therapy your child will need that you don't know how to request. Now, you just had them teach you what you needed. Now, the next time that meeting comes up, do this again, rinse and repeat. I guarantee you, you will constantly be able to keep your child's therapy. You also can use this to request therapy again. So even if it is just an email where you reach back out to them because you feel like you've lost therapy because of not knowing this and it has been discontinued, you can use this to write down that information, or maybe you all can have a personal phone call. Write this out. If not that therapist, you can submit this to the doctor, a request of the things that you feel that your child is lacking in, and they can make a prescription for therapy again for your kid. It's important that you have those gaps closed, finding the right people to talk to. Also, ask them what other clinicians are out there. What other psychiatrists do they need to see? What other nutritional psychiatrists do they need to see regarding the different kinds of diets they may need to be on that may be affecting their behaviors. Lots of times, the meltdowns that our kids are having, or the ones that we are caring for are having, are related to their lack of ability to communicate, possibly the other things that are bothering them that they are having a hard time observing. So, this workbook will help you follow the steps of figuring out what's happening, because sometimes we need a map. This is your map. This book, 10 Steps to Reducing Your Child's Anxiety on the Autism Spectrum. When I tell you this will make the difference, it will definitely make a difference. Also, if this book gives you the first 4 steps of understanding what's happening and what you need to do when it comes to implementing this information and setting up a plan for your kid or who you're helping, um, and developing social skills and meeting the issues that they're having head on so that they can stop having as many issues with anxiety. Seeing a cognitive therapist is important. For us, we have Emory. I don't know who you all have in your state, but if you follow me, you'll know that there is a particular book that we have that is out for anybody from state to state that lists by state the different clinics and services that are provided for each one and who you're supposed to reach out to in regards to that so that they can help you with your kid and what they are responsible for with that. Um, and it has been so helpful to know having this workbook here because it'll help you strategize. It'll help you be more successful in that. Because what we're wanting is to create goals, but we also want to accomplish them. Very few things are more frustrating than creating a plan that falls through every time. And that is not just frustrating for you, it's frustrating for them. Because even though they don't have a planned path of a plan, but in their mind, there are some expectations. For instance, if you have to leave, we don't call it counting down, but telling someone 30 minutes, which time is a very abstract concept for them, they don't understand that if you say 30 minutes, what 30 minutes is, all of a sudden it's 30 minutes and you're telling them to go. Or you didn't tell them at all. You just decided it was time for them to leave, and then everyone's watching, and then you're struggling with them to get them to leave without understanding that their comprehension is not there and is still expecting them to follow those directions when they don't understand why you're giving them to them anyway. So the best plan of action would be, and I had to learn that, was to, I won't say count them down, but as they're losing time, inform them of the time they're losing so that they're prepared. So if it's been 20 minutes, then let them know that in 10 minutes they have to go. Then let them know in 7 minutes. Then let them know in 5 minutes. Then let them know in 3 minutes. They understand the concept of counting, and then start to help them prepare in the last 3 minutes to start to get their things together rather than trying to rip them away from what they're doing, because this helps with the transition process. Learning that in other areas of life too, giving them information is extremely helpful, particularly as they get older, so that you don't have what appears to be to others a power struggle when it for them it's just a lack of information. So thank you all for joining me in the room with a special agenda. I hope this was particularly helpful in helping you create a plan for your family and what to do regarding insurance and keeping the assistance that you need rather than losing it because of what it appears to be people not providing you information because legally they're not supposed to provide you the information. So I love a good backdoor. I hope I gave you one that will give you the interest you need so that you have the plans that you need and things work out better. So I hope this was helpful to you all. Make sure that you don't forget to create a chain of communication regularly and to request what you need and ask when you don't. Ask, there's nothing wrong with asking people if you don't know, do you know who does? That makes so much more difference than we ever realized. Lots of times I have gotten help because once I realized they didn't know, it sometimes doesn't occur to people because they've moved on to something else to say, since you can't help me, can you tell me who can? Or do you know who knows who can help me? That has made the difference in so many occasions. It has gotten us services, it has gotten us assistance, it has gotten us support. Thank you so much for joining me in the room with a special agenda. I hope you all join me again next week. We will have something else coming up, something great. It will be a surprise. Thank you for joining us. Love each other, be supportive, and forgive yourself when things don't go great. Because sometimes they won't. But it's important that we understand not being perfect doesn't make us inadequate. It just means we are human. And sometimes our children need to know that they're just having a human moment too. Have a great night. Thank you for joining us.